Hello everybody, Rogue Fox here, and welcome back to another Minecraft Bedrock Edition Redstone tutorial. A couple of months ago, when we were able to start storing XP using furnaces, blast furnaces, and smokers, I came out with this XP storage furnace array. Now, throughout that video, there were a couple changes that we made if you saw it, one of them being spacing out the smokers like this, so all of the items would distribute evenly, and then also we added in a hopper line below these hoppers so the system wouldn't get backed up going into the output chest. And that was pretty nice, but there were a couple of things that I wish I could have done, but I just simply couldn't figure out. One of the things I really wanted to add to this build when I first made it was some sort of line that we could add to the back that allowed us to place fuel in a chest and then distribute all the fuel throughout our furnaces. With this current design, we are not able to do that. We actually have to place it in by hand like this. And if you have a bigger array, you can imagine that would become quite tedious to do each time. So that is one thing I wanted to do with this current setup. There was no way to do it, or so I thought. And then the second thing I wanted to do was have some sort of item sorter or item filter that distributed all the items to a specific furnace, smoker, or blast furnace. For example, we do have 3 smokers here, so if we had some sort of filter that would allow us to have this become potatoes only, kelp, and then something else of our choice. I really wanted to do that, but I just couldn't figure it out. The system I came up with at the time actually backed up all of these hoppers, and then it just became a huge mess. So with all that being said, this leads us to today's design. This is the new and improved XP storage furnace array, XP furnace farm, whatever you want to call it. This is the new design equipped with all the bells and whistles that I wish it had the first time. So we do have a chest to place in our fuel. We also have a chest to place in our items that will be sorted through the item sorter. And then all of that is going to be distributed into our collection chest down below. And if we take a look at this thing, let's swing around the backside here. This is a fairly clean and compact design, if I do say so myself. So that is always a plus when it comes to designing things. And you will also notice in the title that this is going to be part 1. Now, the reason why this is part 1 is because I feel that these things can be standalone builds. And what I mean by that is, let's say you want a chest to be able to distribute your fuel throughout all of your furnaces, throughout your array, but you don't necessarily want an item sorter. You just don't really care to have one. So that is going to be part 1. We are going to do just this whole part here and then have the line to add in your fuel. And then if you do want an item sorter or item filter, that is going to be in part 2. So that is why I chose to do them separately. Like I said, they could be standalone builds on their own. With all of that explaining out of the way, which is another reason why I wanted to make this a 2-part video, I'm sure you want to know how this thing works. So what we're going to do first is pretend that this item sorter is not even there, and all we have is our array and then also our fuel chest. So for the fuel chest, what we're going to do, whatever you're using for fuel, you can just place it in like that. That is going to go into the back and be distributed. Now, I have 16 slots that need to be filled into this first one here. And after that gets full, it's going to make its way down into the other hoppers. Now, the only downside to this build, I would say, is we can't really control where the items are going to flow to. Meaning, if we take a look, this is filling up, but we'll also have a couple of them making their way down here. But on the other hand, if you are trying to fill all of this up with fuel, I guess it doesn't really matter. The fuel is going to make its way into each and every furnace. And that is the fuel line and how that works. And all we would do to cook our food is place in our potatoes there into the barrel. And the cool thing about this is we can stash all of this with potatoes or kelp, whatever you like. That is going to make its way down. Now, for those of you who have seen any of my XP storage videos, you kind of know how this is going to work. We have our items in the hopper here. And let's go ahead and place this stack in. And if we take a look on the back side, you'll notice that this piston is extended, meaning that this hopper right here is unlocked. And all of the items being cooked at the moment are going to go down into the output chest. Now, let's say a few stacks of potatoes have cooked. And we're going to go ahead and take this out. This is going to retract the piston, as you can see right here, locking up this hopper. And then all the items that are currently cooking are going to be stored here. So when the time comes to collect the XP, all we're going to do is pull out this stack, and then we'll get all the XP for that stack and all the stacks that made their way into the output chest. So that is how part 1 is going to work in its entirety. Now, for those of you who are going to want the item sorter or item filter that is going to be a part of part 2, let me go ahead and demonstrate that. So just in case if you think you don't want it, this hopefully may make you change your mind. So let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and use our furnace first. So that is going to be sand, just to show that everything is going to pass over. So that means it's going to completely bypass this furnace here, the blast furnace, and everything is going to go down into there. And if we take a look in this chest, nothing is being placed in, so you know nothing is actually accidentally getting in there. And then what we're going to do next is placing our stack of iron, because that is almost depleted. So that's going to empty out, and then we should see our iron ore starting to go up. So there's the sand, there goes the iron ore, that's going to make its way into the item sorter, and then this is going to fire up in just a second. There we go, that is fired up, and then we have all of our iron ore going through here. We have our sand that has already passed through. The whole stack is down here, and like I said, if you do have multiple of these things, it will fill up the hopper first, and then if you have more, it will also fill up the barrel. So you don't have to worry too much about overloading this. I hope you don't have this much iron on hand. Iron ore, I mean, you should have been cooking that if you do, but you can imagine we have a decent amount of storage for sand, kelp, things like that, and also everything is going to make its way down into the output chest. To make part 1 of this XP storage furnace array, you are going to need a 9x6 area, and let's go ahead and take a look at our supplies. And there we go, there are all the supplies we'll need for today's build. This top line up here, this is going to be for one module, so this is going to be if we have a smoker, blast furnace, or furnace. For each one, we are going to need 2 repeaters, a comparator, 1 sticky piston, 1 redstone block, 6 hoppers, and then a barrel. And then this second row is going to be for the item elevator. In this case, I guess it's going off to the side, so it won't be an item elevator. The dropper system that is going to distribute all of the fuel will need a hopper, dropper, comparator, 2 redstone repeaters, 5 redstone dust, and 2 chests. And then the rest of this are just going to be your building blocks, a stair block so you can access that chest, water for your water stream, and then for this model that I'm showing you here, we are going to need 2 packed ice as well as 2 more chests for the output. With that being said, if you want to pause the video, go ahead and do that, grab your supplies, and then we'll jump right into the build. To get things started, what we're going to do is build the foundation for this. So this is going to be the whole front part of the build, and what I'm choosing to do is start 5 blocks up just so you can see everything that is going to happen underneath. But all you really need to do, if this is going to be your floor right there, you just need this block and then 1 block underneath for all the redstone, and this is going to be the wall, just so you know. Now what we're going to do from here, we're going to start in this corner. We're going to come 2 more blocks over to make 3. Get your smoker, furnace, or blast furnace, place 1 there, block, place your second one, block, and then your third one right there, and then a block at the end. Next, go ahead and grab your hoppers, drop hoppers into the top of all of these here, just like this. Get your barrel, and place your barrels on top. Now, you could use a chest, which means you'll have stair blocks going across the top. I just really like the way the barrels look, and I really want to make use of the new blocks, so that is why I'm going with barrels. And let's go ahead, we're going to fill this in just like this. Leave this block open. We are going to place in our chest for the fuel in a little bit. And our stair block is going to go here, so leave that open. And then fill the rest of this in like that. And I'll go ahead and complete the floor, just to give it the complete look. And there we go. That is what the foundation of this build should look like. For the redstone, we're going to go around to the back and set up the furnaces to store the XP. So let's swing around to the back side here. And what we want to do, just place blocks against those hoppers there. We are going to use them, and plus it makes the build look good from the front side, so that way you don't see the water stream or anything flowing behind it. Makes it nice and full. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our hoppers and run 2 hoppers out of the back of the furnace like that, and this is going to be needed for the fuel. So we'll get our whole furnace and then 2 hoppers worth of storage for the fuel. Now what we're going to do is grab a comparator, run a comparator out from that block on top of the hopper, run that comparator into a block like this, grab your sticky piston, come underneath, sticky piston facing down with a redstone block that's going to be on its face, but let's go ahead and hold off on that for a second, because what we need to do now is place 2 temporary blocks like this, knock that one out, run a hopper straight down like this into that temporary block. We can go ahead and remove it, and then actually we do need that right there. We need to place 2 more blocks like this. Now we can remove it. 2 repeaters, set to 1 tick, and then redstone block on the face of the sticky piston. That is going to turn on the repeaters, and then that is going to lock up the hopper. Now what we're going to do is repeat the same process for the rest of these, but right now what I want to do is place in the output chest. So we need to place 2 temporary blocks down like this. Actually just 1. This is going to be the output right there, and let's go ahead and make that a double chest. And then go ahead, we're going to run hoppers all the way down, just like that, until we get to this one. So we have this one running down into the hopper line, going all the way down to the chest. And like I said, all we would do is repeat the process. So hopper straight down, 2 hoppers coming out. And this will take just a moment, so go ahead, repeat this process, and then I'll be right back. Once you have everything completed, it should look just like this. Nice and clean, everything should be exactly the same. And we did use all 6 of our hoppers that we had in the supplies, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th one would be the one that comes over to the side, going over to the next module. So that is all completed. Now what we're going to do is add in the redstone to actually distribute all of our fuel into the furnaces. Alright, now for the dropper vader, or whatever you want to call it, what we're going to do is place in our double chest. So go ahead and place a chest there, and make your double chest over on the back side like this. We can go ahead and place down our upside down stair block, right there. Now come around to this side. Against this block right here, go ahead and place your dropper facing forward. Get your hopper, and run a hopper into the side of that dropper. That way when we place in our fuel, it's going to go straight down into the dropper there. Now to wire this up, what we're going to do is place a block against the hopper, temporary block here, 2 blocks out, 1 block up, like this. We can remove these. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and place in 3 blocks over on this side, block against this block, and then 2 blocks like this. So your layout should look like this so far. Now go ahead and grab your comparator, run a comparator out from this block, repeater, get your redstone dust, and place redstone dust over on this side. That will complete the clock circuit. And over on this side, place 2 redstone dust down like this. And then what we need to do is place a block right there. We can remove that. So there we go. We do have a block right there, right under the dropper and over. And then go ahead and run a repeater right into that dropper. So that is the circuit all completed, and I'll go ahead and give you a top view just like that. With all the redstone completed, we are almost done. And if you haven't tested this already, let's go ahead. We're going to place in, let's say, half a stack, just like that. That is going to distribute, and you can imagine this going into our water line, which we are going to set up right now. And while that's doing that, let's go ahead and set it up. So go ahead and place blocks like this, and it doesn't have to be glass. I just like to use glass when it comes to water streams. But you do want to fill these blocks in right here. And then for the packed ice, place 1 against that hopper there, and then 1 against that hopper, completing this line right there. And then we want to place a block at the end to stop our water stream. So let's go ahead and pick this up. Now get your bucket of water. And this is what I love about Bedrock Edition. We can place comparators and repeaters underwater. So what we're going to do is place our bucket of water right there. And yeah, that is such a cool feature. I always love using redstone underwater whenever I can. So this is perfect. And I don't know why I couldn't figure that out before. But this makes it possible for us to have our XP storage redstone. And then also underneath we do have those hoppers. So we do have a system to actually collect all of the fuel. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see that is going into that furnace, but like I said, the downside is a couple of them will actually bypass that hopper and make their way down. Now, you don't have to have this system there if you do have some sort of bamboo farm. And whoops, let's go ahead. We do need to place a block above that stream right there to prevent that from happening. So we do want a block there. But like I was saying, if you don't have this or you don't want it and you have some sort of bamboo farm off to the side, you can run a water stream into your array just like that, and that will work just the same. For those of you wanting more than 3 furnaces in your array, you may run into a slight issue, and I just found this out, and I guess this would definitely be a downside of this build if you wanted more. So what we have here, we just completed this whole section. This is where the glass block was to cut off the water, and what I did was remove it, placed in a button, and then started a new water stream, and then this would be the next array. Now you will also notice that I do have a 3-block gap, and you'll see why in just a moment, because technically our next array would start, or our next module would be right there. And if we throw an item into the water stream, that's going to go down. And one interesting thing that I noticed is that it pretty much comes to a stop at this comparator and then completely stops at this one. And I'm not sure why it does that. And that's even with packed ice right there. So let's go ahead and pick this up. We're going to remove this, again giving this a 3-block gap because it does come to a stop when I placed it in different areas. And we're going to go ahead and throw that back in. That's going to go down. It goes by. That actually catches into that stream. And you can see it does slow down crossing these comparators, but actually comes to a stop when we get to the 6th module. That would be down here. So that is a bit of a bummer and a downside to this build. So just keep that in mind if you are trying to add more than 3 furnaces in your array. It looks like you can get away with 5, but you will have an awkward little 3-block gap right there. And that is this build pretty much finished. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've done. We have our fuel line that is set up. Again, this is only part 1. We will add the item sorter in the next one. And keep in mind, we are kind of limited to how many we can have in our array. So that might be a bit of a bummer if you're wanting to filter a bunch of items. But all we would do, as you saw in the beginning, to actually turn this on is place in our potatoes or whatever we're cooking or smelting into the barrel, and that will go down. We will have to do that by hand, but an option I also just came up with is adding this back here. So from the floor level, we can reach this right there, and we can go ahead and place in our potatoes, and again, this should evenly distribute. And like I said, the plus side to this is because we don't have an item sorter, this is perfect for your potato farm if you have a big kelp farm. That way you do have 3 smokers that are running, potentially 5 if you want to do it that way. Or if you've been watching me in Truly Bedrock, you would know I do have this double chest being distributed into 2 different lines, so we can have another duplicate of this on this side here. If we're facing in this direction, all we would do is mirror it. That is also another possibility with this design, and that is only if you don't want the item sorter. If you want the item sorter, we can't have this, and we wouldn't really need it because we are going to have specific furnaces, smokers, or blast furnaces for a particular item. So that would be, this really wouldn't work if we're doing it that way. And again, it is going to require the space up top as well. There you have it, everyone. Part 1 of the new and improved XP storage furnace array, furnace XP farm, whatever you would like to call it. Part 1 is done. And what we did is set up the foundation for part 2 as well, because we will need all the redstone we just did for part 2. But like I said, I do feel that these 2 are standalone builds, and you can tell we don't necessarily need the item sorter for this. This works just fine without it. But the item sorter will be part 2 for those of you interested. And what we did in part 1, again, just to recap, because I did so much talking and did so much, we placed in our furnaces, we set up the redstone so our furnaces could actually store the XP, and then we added our fuel line that will actually feed the smokers so we don't have to do it by hand. And again, if you do have some sort of bamboo farm, you can hook this up to that system as well. That should work just fine. But with that being said, everyone, this is the end of today's redstone tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. This has been Rogue Fox, and I will see you later.